Hello, everybody, and welcome to Taking Control, the ADHD podcast on Rash Pixel FM. I'm Pete Wright, and I'm here with Nikki Kinzer.
Hello, Pete.
It's a digital episode.
I know, but I got to give you a quick update before we get into the tech stuff.
Okay, well, let me do this part first.
Okay.
Before we do the quick update, head over to TakeControlADHD.com, and you can get to know us a bit better. Listen to the show on the website, subscribe for free in iTunes, or join the mailing list to make sure you don't miss a single episode. Of course, connect with us on Twitter or Facebook at Take Control ADHD, and call us 503-664-4ADD and leave us your thoughts. What tools are you using to get through your every single day with ADHD? We'd love to hear from you.
Yes.
Okay, now, your update.
I was so motivated from our last conversation that I actually went and bought the Dave Ramsey book.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah. And I started on Saturday actually going through it and still kind of working on our plan. But I was so excited about it. And I really like what he has to say. So I'm doing the snowball thing. Like I'm gonna pay off my house next year.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
That's not gonna happen. But anyway, yeah. So I just wanted to put that in there that I actually went and bought it and have really enjoyed it so far.
Well, we are going to be talking more about that in today's digital episode. And I think, because so much of this, even around when you're talking about digital stuff, so much around these tools is around how you use them and behavior and how you think about them. And I think it's really important to just keep that at the forefront. No app is going to fix you.
True.
Right?
Or a book.
Or
right?
a book or anything. Yeah, you at some point you have to develop the muscle to make this happen. I was just coaching another colleague on, GTD and kind of getting his, he's feeling totally overwhelmed by all of the noise in his life and all of the stuff that's going on. And he got through the point of the core dump. He got everything out of his head and on paper, and he's feeling really, good about that. And then he looks at his list and he's totally overwhelmed again and says, why doesn't this system help me? I don't have time to actually sit down and begin to categorize and schedule when I'm going to do this work. I don't have time to do that. And I can't stress this enough. If you legitimately don't have time to do that, you're hopeless. Right?
Yeah.
There is no way for you to get out from under it until you put the brakes on your life. You have to put the brakes on and make a commitment to actually developing this muscle. You have to be able to do that because no system, whether it's GTD, whether it's Dave Ramsey, envelope budgeting, snowball, none of this is going to work if you don't put the brakes on your life and stop and take stock. If it's 15 minutes a day for 2 weeks, or 3 hours on Sunday, you have to get control of it. And I know how frustrating it is, but at some point you have to be able to take control of that piece of it. No system, no app can do that for you.
It's interesting because, saying that you don't have the time just doesn't work anymore. That is just not an excuse, because if you don't take the time, you're just going to keep doing what you're doing and never get out of it. So, I think that's a really good point. You make the time. You just make the time. And I like what you said. I mean, even if it's just 15 minutes, you don't have to figure out your whole plan in one session, but just making sure you're paying attention to it. And actually, you're mirroring something that Dave Ramsey said in his book that I just read last night about the budget, that you have to have a budget. Like if you want to financially be in control of your money and where it's going, you got to know how much you have and how it's being spent and plan for that before you have it. So basically spending every dollar before you actually take it in, that you know where it's going. And so I thought that was interesting because I can tell you, I've lived a long time without really having a strict budget. It's always been kind of loosey-goosey. So
yeah. Well, I think it's really important stuff, and I think that you just said it. The saying I don't have time, saying I don't, it is not an acceptable answer, and more important, it doesn't jive with I want to get my life in control. I want to get my money in control. I want to get my work under control. Those two things do not reconcile at a really fundamental level. So
no, because you're just staying stuck. It's like you're stuck in the mud and you're staying there and you're not really making any movement to get out. And the way to get out is to start making time for it, right? I mean, that's Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
So we're talking about some of the technology tools. It's fascinating because, I was looking over the past episodes. We just did a technology finance episode in December of last year. And so some of these tools this is kind of an update. But I'm coming at it from a little bit of a different perspective, thinking about where the ADHD stuff gave me a roadblock. And I hope some of the technological tools and apps that I am recommending today help, because they certainly helped me get over these roadblocks in my own systems.
You've got the ADHD spin on it.
Yeah,
awesome.
Right.
All
So,
right.
So the first one, I've got 4 things that I want to talk about here today. The first one is paper. We've talked about paper before. Paper of any form is anathema to me. It makes me crazy. And so, with the exception of my Field Notes journal or my Moleskine journals that I document my life in, getting bills, getting paper, mail, I can't stand it. And this was creating a major roadblock to me. Bills and receipts in particular, right? Dinner receipts, I would get jammed in my wallet after, say, client dinners or lunches. I'd put them in my wallet and think, well, I'll take care of this when I get back to my desk. And
not anymore, because I've gone to lunch with you recently.
Well, that's right. And that was the thing, because
exactly
what would happen,
you're gonna do.
What would happen before is I'd look at it, and 6 months later, I'd open my wallet and I'd have this receipt, and the flimsy little kind of heat transfer paper. It's invisible now. You can't actually even see what was on it because it's rubbed itself, clean. And that is terrible. So my objective here was to have systems that enable frictionless, immediate action. Right? That is so important, is immediate action, so that I don't have to schedule something later. I can take 10 seconds now and actually take action on this. So an update on my scanning and filing system. Now, I have talked about this app. It's one of my very favorite apps, ScanBot. It's a home screen app on my iOS devices, both my iPad and my iPhone. ScanBot, link in the show notes. It is fantastic. It is so fast. And what it does is it allows me to, as you have witnessed in our recent lunch, I can take out my phone as we are dining, right after I sign the check.
And he does it.
I do it. Amen. Hallelujah. You take a picture of it. And I have in ScanBot, I have saved some fast tagging and file naming, right? So that what happens, you take the picture, it converts it into black and white and does OCR on it, optical character recognition on the receipt. So then the text is searchable of the receipt. And then I save it and apply a quick title to it, which is, again, saved as a part of a template, which is, receipt. I type in the name of the restaurant. If it's a restaurant I've been to before, I can fill that in, and who I was with. So Nikki Kinzer. And then I will tag it, and I will tag it taxes 2015, receipt, work meal, whatever tags work for you. And then I hit save. And in one motion, when I hit save, it applies all of the tags, it saves the file name, and it uploads it to Evernote. So I love that feature of ScanBot for iOS. Another highly regarded app for iOS, Android, and Windows Phone is called Cam Scanner. Again, link in the show notes. Cam Scanner does a lot of the same stuff as ScanBot does. This is Mac Windows discussion. People have allegiance to whatever app they feel a better affinity to, and so I've stuck to ScanBot, but Cam Scanner is highly recommended. Does very similar stuff, and depending on your platform, that'll work for you. Another one that I thought was interesting is Google Drive for Android. Now, Google Drive, the app, also exists for iOS, but I did not know until I started digging around that Google Drive for Android actually does the scanning and OCR. So if you're a Google Drive user, if you keep all of your paperless workflow in Google Drive, you can scan directly into your Google Drive account, and it'll apply the OCR and file naming stuff that you want to do there too.
Nice.
And finally, if you are strictly Evernote user, Scannable for iOS, and it's exclusively, I believe, for iOS, I think. Scannable is an app that allows you to do the same thing, and it only saves primarily saves to Evernote. It's really designed to work with Evernote. And yeah, confirmed. That is only for iOS. So if you're an iOS user, Scannable is a great way to go. what I like about Cam Scanner and ScanBot is that they allow you to save documents to a number of different platforms. So, with ScanBot, I can choose to save to Dropbox. I can choose to upload to Evernote. I can choose to share to Google Drive or Box.net or Cloud or Slack or, whatever service I'm using, I can share into that service. So I would definitely check out those apps. They're really, really useful. So
I have a question for you because I wasn't paying attention to this piece of it when we had lunch. Once you sign the receipt and you've scanned it, then do you just leave the receipt there at the restaurant or do you throw it away or what do you do?
No, I put it in my pocket and I'll take it back to my office and shred it. Like when I empty my pockets at my desk, and my desk is where I have this little bowl on my desk where my wallet and my keys go because, habit.
Right.
And so when I empty my pockets, I'll find that receipt. My system is trusted now, so I know when that receipt is in my hand, I've already scanned it. It's ready to be shredded. If it has a credit card number on it, I like to keep it with me and shred it. So, I leave the restaurant copy there. I bring back my other copy and shred it. And I even do this, when I'm at Office Depot. If I order most of my stuff on Amazon at this point, and so it allows me to kind of have my receipts already digital, right? Because they come via email, or I can download past receipts in Amazon.com. But when I go to places like the kids' school supplies, we forgot to pick up a binder or something, and I'll go and pick up a binder at the brick and mortar store, and I'll even do it right on my leather seats. In my car, right? My car has black leather seats, and so it's a nice high contrast place for scanning receipts. I can just put the receipt on the seat, take a picture of it. Even though Office Depot is like 2 miles from my house, and it would take me, I could come home and take care of business right at my desk. I don't, because I need to trust my system, and that means I need to scan as close to the point of purchase as possible, or I will create a mess.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So those are the two tools I use for immediate scanning. Is to, again, frictionless system that allows you to get your receipts and your papers into a place that you can trust them. The third service I would recommend, and I've mentioned this, I don't think we've ever done a show on it, is a service called FileThis.com. Does this ring a bell?
No. Mm-mm.
FileThis is, I adore FileThis. I really do.
It's an app, or what is it?
It's a web service.
A web service.
Right?
Okay.
Now this is for like statements and bills that come from utility companies, from banks, from credit cards and stores, like store credit cards, that kind of thing. FileThis allows you to log into your account. You create a free account, and then you can log in and connect the companies that you work with to your FileThis account, right? Mm-hmm. And then say my bank, I say, I'm going to connect my bank to my FileThis account. And then I can go in and say, FileThis, I want you to, every month, or every week, I want you to go check my utility company or my bank and see if there are any new statements. And if there are new statements, I want you to download them from that service and file them in my Evernote account. Now think about that. Think about what that's doing there, right? I am now taking statements directly from the service, putting them in my Evernote account, and I can then ignore my mail.
But you're still getting it through mail.
I have turned off the mail from most of my whenever it's possible. If there's a utility, gas company, electricity company, phone company, I've turned off all the mail that I get there because I get it into FileThis directly, right?
Interesting.
And I adore it. So school loans, we're still paying off my wife's grad school at this point, and so I get that statement every month. I get, our electric company. I get, pay stubs from ADP. I get gas companies. I get Amazon. I get all of these things can be connected through FileThis. And at this point, they have, it seems like hundreds of companies that they work with directly to create a secure connection, log in as you, authenticate as you, and save your statements into Evernote. Now, at tax time, I need to go through and I need to find out, how much did we spend in our phone company. I have all my statements. They're all PDF statements in my Evernote account, perfectly saved. Saves me a ton. Again, frictionless. Frictionless. You can on, I mentioned Evernote because, as you well know, I love Evernote, and that is where I save it. But again, like the scannable ScanBot cam scanner tools, it allows you to save to a number of different destinations, including you can just leave it at File This if you want to keep logging into the File This cloud. But Dropbox, Google Drive, Box.net, Amazon Cloud Drive, Smart Vault, About One, a lot of different popular cloud services you can authenticate to and have your documents saved right there.
Cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
File this.
This. The next kind of area of discussion is around my tendency. You talk about hyperfocus, and I would find that I would hyperfocus on micromanagement of transactions, right? And now I don't want to say that it's not important to reconcile your checking account, right? You need to know how much money you have and how much you're spending and that kind of a thing. But I would find that I was using Quicken at the time, and I would log in and turn on Quicken and download my bank statements and reconcile every day. And I would review reports, and I would look at it, and I would do it every single day. And eventually I became so overwhelmed in the process of looking at every time I bought gas in my car, every time I stopped and bought Starbucks, every time I did this, that I forgot about, the forest. I was too busy looking at trees, and I forgot about the forest.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, these services like Mint and Personal Capital that we've mentioned before, they do something really important. They allow you to have reasonable objectives for ongoing financial management, right? These are tools that do the categorization and reporting for you automatically.
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? That ends up being super, super useful because you end up being able to say, okay, I need to step back and just look at these overall categories and see where my spending is. It allows you to do that thing that you're talking about, building a budget based on your current spending. And you can go in and scan and say, you know what, that expense right there that Mint says is a gas expense is actually a food expense. And you can change things, but correction is so much easier than manual transaction matching. And that was where I found myself getting really lost. And I just had to let go. It was so important to let go of that and end up being smarter about my financial management. The systems are better than I was. Mm-hmm. And mostly because, again, of this ADHD, the ADHD tendency, I would hyper-focus for a long time. I'd get overwhelmed, and then I wouldn't focus on it at all.
Again, right. And then it would just go away, or you would ignore it. Sure. That makes sense. Because, so many numbers and details and facts coming at you. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Too much. Okay, so that was the big ones. Check if you haven't checked out Mint.com or Personal Capital, where you can tie in all of your various financial accounts to have one single dashboard to give you a snapshot of where all of your money lies. I highly recommend you do that. It's super, super useful. So my third big area of conversation is in account management. And this is just following up on our conversation from last week, where I described how we at our credit union have created online a number of different checking and savings accounts. And
love that idea.
It's such a good idea. And I'll tell you why I think it's so important. Because it really reflects, the envelope method of budgeting, right?
Right.
And this is something I've...
But it's not the actual envelope.
It's not the actual
envelope. It's still online, yeah.
Right. But why is that so important for the ADHD brain? And why was it so important for my ADHD brain? Because it allowed me to think in terms of single functions.
Right.
Right.
Oh, I get yeah. So instead of having just one big savings account, you're actually being able to separate it into single categories or reasons for that money.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Because what I was finding is when I would have a savings account, family savings account, and it would have, say it has a couple $1,000s in it, then what I'm keeping in my head is that couple $1,000s has to account for projects A, B, C, and D. Mm-hmm. And now I'm trying to keep track of in my head I need to keep track of the calculation that leads to that $1,000. Well, if we have that couple $1,000 in there and these 4 things, how do I know when each of these things is funded? How do I know when I have enough money to take that trip or to, pay off that debt or to whatever? Well, I don't. And then I would get myself all caught up in that overthinking or underthinking or dismissing because there's too much detail. And that was just terrible.
Well, and what happens to me is then there's a fear that I shouldn't take the money out. Mm-hmm. Like there's a legitimate fear that even if I know I have enough money for a vacation, I'm not going to take it out because, well, what if I need it? What if
you need it? Right.
What if an emergency happens? Maybe I don't have enough. Maybe, and then we end up not going on the vacation or not even planning it because, well, I'm too afraid to take it out.
Yep. Exactly.
So if you have it separated, it's away from your emergency fund. I mean, it totally makes sense. The other thing I wanted to add to this is something that I'm going to do this weekend is I'm putting a Christmas fund. Now, you guys, you probably already have done this, and this is certainly nothing new, but it now that we've been talking about this and I've been paying attention more to my budget, I'm going to do that this weekend and put a Christmas fund because, this is the perfect time. It's September. So I've got basically 3 months, September, October, and November to save. I'm going to budget and figure out how much money I want to spend. And I'm going to put that away so that when December comes, that is the only money I'm using for Christmas.
That's the trick.
And that's for everything, not only gifts for my kids, but, if we're hosting a holiday party, food, all of that stuff really accumulates. And so it's not just for gifts. It's kind of for the whole season.
Yeah. It is so important. And it gives you a lot of freedom. Now, I want to get back to that, what you said. What if I have an emergency? Well, that's a really great context, right? Then you would need a separate account that's your emergency cash. And they, their financial advisors will tell you, you need how many months of cash do you need for an emergency? Well, that becomes a savings goal. And this gets back to the snowball, debt reduction plan we talked about last week, using the snowball plan as a savings plan. Well, that emergency savings plan is a really important personal debt, what I qualify as a personal debt. So it's something that it's a debt to yourself that you have to get to a certain point. And then it allows you the freedom to be able to apply, once you say you need $15,000 in cash, well, you can save to that, reach that point, and then anything up and above that goes into your, new car fund or whatever you need to spend. So it really allows you to think about it. But having those separate accounts, those single function accounts, it frees you from having to justify every purchase or every savings against one giant bucket. And that for the ADHD brain, I think, is super, super useful. So when you're choosing a bank, or if you're on the hunt for a bank, I would strongly recommend doing a thorough audit of their online plans. Don't go for a bank that charges fees for account opening and closing. Don't go to a bank that charges a fee for account maintenance if you can avoid it. And many banks do. If you have the opportunity to join a credit union that tends to be fee light, I would do that. Another service that I really love is Simple. Simple is a kind of an alternative bank. It's available only online and through ATMs, but it allows you to do, it's essentially envelope budgeting, out of one giant bucket using tags. And so you log into your Simple dashboard or your Simple app on the on your phone or tablet, and they give you one giant bucket, and say you have $5,000 in it, but you tag money as gas, right? And say, of this $5,000, $50 of it is my gas bill this month. And then the total balance that it shows you as safe to spend is, $4,950. So it allows you, even though functionally you only have one account at Simple, it does give you that benefit, the facility to create essentially sub-accounts that'll give you that single focus. It says this, I'm ready to buy this thing. I'm ready to save for this thing, because it hides that money from your safe to spend. I love Simple. I love the people at Simple. I think it's a great, great, great bank. Now, it's not good for families. It really doesn't, it doesn't allow you to have like shared accounts quite as easily as many banks do. Like if you need shared checking, shared savings, that kind of a thing. It's really great for just single people who, want to manage their money smartly. It's very modern, very progressive, kind of forward-thinking organization. So I'm very pleased with them. Okay. The last thing, and I'll keep this one short. I know we're running long here. Think about keeping, at least for a little while, a finance diary.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. I have talked about this tool before, Day One for iOS and the Mac, or Day Journal for Android. These are tools that allow you to just sort of, it's like a diary. I mean, you just keep kind of a journal, and you can use it for anything you want. You can put pictures in them, you can put, links in them. But I have found that when, at the end of the day, I am driving along and I turn on dictation in Day One and I just talk to myself. I just say, today I ended up having to spend too much on my Hover account to register domain names that I'm keeping. I need to, I really need to be conscious of how much money I'm spending on domain names that I'm not using for websites that I want to build. Or I spent way too much on food today, which says, A, I'm going to get fat, and B, I'm going to get broke. So I need to figure that out. Like, just keep those kinds of thoughts and say them out loud. Like, that is really important. Or write them by hand and actually, enter them into a journal, because the more you think about it, the more you kind of keep your awareness up, I think, the easier it will be to build new habits. That's it.
I like it.
Yeah?
Awareness. Yeah.
Awareness.
Yeah,
that's
definitely
the trick.
A big one. Mm-hmm.
So that's it. All the links to all the apps and recommendations will be in the show notes at takecontroladhd.com.
Good stuff.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
That's good. I think we came through.
I think so.
All right.
But love to hear other people too. If they have additional suggestions, ideas, like Pete said at the beginning of the show, call us, email us, whatever, and we will pass those along to listeners. Because there's so many different ways to do this, and it's good. It's good. Well, it's important.
There are, and I love the feedback we get from these digital episodes. I still have some feedback I need to get back to. So for those who have written and haven't heard from us, you will. I've got a backlog. So
yes,
thank you everyone for participating in the communities and listening to the show, downloading, and for your wonderful reviews in iTunes. We sure appreciate it.
Absolutely.
That's it. On behalf of Nikki Kinzer, I'm Pete Wright, and we'll catch you next week on Taking Control, the ADHD podcast.